one of the things that happened early on in my marriage was my wife happened to be the main breadwinner, and so I was going to school. I still am going to school, but then I was working on my undergraduate degree. Now I'm working on my postdoctorate degree. And, well, postdoctorate work, I don't know that there's any more degrees I'm going to be getting, but it's, after you get your doctorate, I don't really think there's any more degrees I can get. But anyways, the point I'm trying to make is that when we were first married, my wife was the main breadwinner, and so I did a lot of the cooking and cleaning around the house, and it wasn't an ideal situation for me because I always had this Western culture concept of the man as being the main breadwinner, and so it was really hard on me for many years, the first few many years that we were married, maybe 2. I guess when you're first married, 2 is many years. But speaking of my wife, that's probably her trying to get a hold of me, but can't really text and drive at the same time. That wouldn't be responsible. My wife and I love each other, but the roles that we have are fluid. In history, gender roles are fluid. The expectations that people have on men and women change over time. You can see in today's society how the expectations of women are completely different than the expectations that we put on women from 50 or 40 or 30 years ago. 100 years ago, the gender expectations were very different. Today we would laugh at a man or be worried about a man who was wearing a skirt because he was, cross-dressing, which is a sin according to the Bible. Well, wearing a skirt wasn't always a way of cross-dressing, and before the Dark Ages, when the Romans were still running around conquering Europe, they encountered the Germanic tribes, and the Roman soldiers, of course, were all wearing skirts, and they laughed at the Germans because the Germans wore pants, and they thought how odd it was that they were wearing pants into battle, because any real man wore a skirt. Gender roles change. Gender expectations change. And social customs change. And that's not something that is a good or a bad thing. It's just the way things are. Men should be men. Women should be women. And my wife is a real girly girl. She likes pink, and she likes... if girls like something, my wife will like it. I'm kind of think of myself as a man's man. I like to hunt, fish, and blow things up, and I like living a very masculine lifestyle. But as any husband and wife knows, there's areas where you need to give and take. There's areas where one person needs to give a little, needs to help out his wife, needs to help out her husband. And we should help out our wives. And if that means that we do the dishes, well, then we should do the dishes if we're husbands. If a wife needs to step up and take on the job for a while because the man can't be a breadwinner for a while, well, then we should do what we have to do out of mutual submission to each other, as Ephesians 5 requires of us. There's not gender fluidity in the sense of, okay, I'm a man today, tomorrow I'm a woman. That's just perversion, and it's a sin that needs to be repented of. But there's a gender fluidity in the sense of there are customs and expectations that cultures put on a couple that as the course of our lives go on, the duties, the responsibilities that we have change. But there's not a transition that's allowed for, biblically speaking, from, okay, I'm a man today, I'm a woman tomorrow. Even scientifically speaking, our genetic makeup down to the chromosome level is always going to be male or female from birth, regardless of whether or not we sin and mutilate our flesh so that we look like the other gender. At the chromosomal level, there's always going to be gender identification with either male or female, and that's not going to change no matter how much we want it to, no matter how much we change our outward appearance. At the genetic level, we're always male if we're born male. We're always female if we're born female. So in that sense, there's no gender fluidity. There is gender fluidity in the sense of, well, the role expectations change over time, but there cannot be, if we're Christians, we cannot allow for ourselves fluidity in the genders. If you're not saved, if you don't know the Lord, do whatever you want. Don't listen to me. I don't have anything to say to non-believers. But if you're a Christian, there's no such thing as engaging in the perversions of the world. There's no such thing as engaging in the sins of the world. The things that Jesus died to save us from are not things that we can engage in for the rest of our lives, or at any point should we tolerate in our own lives the sin that Jesus died for us. At any point where we find sin in our lives, if we're Christian, we need to repent of it, or we stand in danger of denying the work of Jesus through our works. Like Titus 1:16 says, though they confess Jesus with their lips, they deny him with their works. We should never deny Jesus with our lifestyle. We should always affirm the faith, the salvation that Christ gave to us.